Welcome once again to Mid-State Money Talk with Kevin Dietrich, Al Dietrich of First Choice Financial. I'm your host, Spike Spangle. Gentlemen, it is great to see you. Al, I'll ask you again, what do we need to cover this week?
Well, we're going to talk a little bit about Social Security. We're going to talk about pensions that are available today and also using a financial advisor in making those decisions.
Oh, fantastic. A lot to cover throughout today's program. But for our viewers out there, just know when you see that phone number come up, you can call that number. We'll do your comprehensive portfolio review. As you can imagine, though, the calendar fills up pretty quickly because we're broadcasting all around the mid-state area. So call that number when you see it up there. We'll get you started on your plan. We'll help you figure out what's on your mind when it comes to retirement planning. Kevin, it is great to see you
as
well. Let's start off then with that topic of Social Security. This is usually an income flow. People, we like to turn on the spigot, but I'm hearing a lot of folks turning it on earlier than ever before today. I think fears of it worrying, running out. What are you seeing, Kevin?
Well, we see the same thing. We see the folks come in and they're retiring earlier, to be honest with you. And folks are retiring around 60 or 62, and they want to turn it on right away. And they just don't know what they don't know. So are some benefits to that. There's also some not such good benefits to turning on early.
Yeah. Al, has Social Security changed much in the last 5-10 years, or is it still just turn it on, that becomes your automatic income?
Well, everybody's afraid of Social Security changing. And you know, with the government, things change all the time. So, yeah, there have been some changes in Social Security. And I'll let Kevin talk about the file and suspend and restricted applications. But, you know, one of the things that we do want to keep in mind is that, you know, at one time you had Social Security and a supplement. There's now 4 parts of Social Security, A, B, C, and D. And I'll let Kevin talk a little bit about that.
Okay. Yeah, so back in 2015, before 2015, I should say, you could be able to file and suspend. So if you have a married couple and maybe you had a stay-home mom or stay-home wife, and then she didn't have much Social Security, so the husband could file his Social Security, the wife could file hers, and then receive half of his, that spousal benefit, and then he could end his or cease his Social Security, and then she could continue getting hers for the rest of her life, until hers maybe got up to a point where it would be beneficial to switch to her own benefit. Yeah. So that's going away with in 2015.
So, and people think, well, then I get to my full retirement age and I'll turn it on. But from what you're saying there is that we used to have these strategies where we could try to maximize, optimize that Social Security. Sure. But because the trust fund itself is becoming smaller and smaller, I think they're getting rid of some of these maximization strategies.
Yeah, that's what I was referring to. The file and suspend used to be a strategy we could do, but now we still have the spousal benefits. So if the husband and wife are working, let's say the husband's collecting $2,000 a month on his full retirement benefit, and then she's able to receive $500. Well, she can receive 50% of his benefit, and doesn't affect his benefit one bit. So she could receive $1,000 per month, and then $2,000 for him, and so that's $3,000 instead of $2,500. So it's a $500 increase. So that's a strategy we can use now. But before the file and suspend, he could suspend his benefit and keep that growing, and then she could continue with her spousal benefit. But that has ceased now. So he has to actually claim his benefit, the husband does, for her to receive the spousal benefit.
Okay. And the other thing about that is that it sounds like, especially for those who live around our area, working families, if you don't have enough Social Security credits for yourself, usually the spouse, the home care engineer taking care of the kids, their Social Security is going to be dependent on what you select.
Sure.
So again, starting Social Security earlier, can that be problematic if we live for a long time?
Yeah, I wanted to just address that because, you know, the earlier you claim Social Security, the less that monthly check is going to be. There's something called full retirement age, FRA, and that's based upon their date of birth. And of course, if your full retirement age is age 66, then if you started at age 62, you're going to take a 25% cut, and you don't get that back. I mean, when you're 66, you can't refile and get 100%. So that's a lifelong decision that you're making. So starting at 62, 65, 66, 67. If you were born after 1970, your full retirement age would be 67. And along with the file and suspend, like Kevin said, that sort of went away. So if the husband was to file today, and then the wife were to file, and then he decided he wanted to suspend, he can still suspend his benefit, but then her benefit goes away.
Right.
He has to continue to take his Social Security.
I never knew that.
Yeah, for her to be able to continue on the spousal. And then we had restricted benefit, and that sort of went away as well. So yeah, there's.
In the same line that my father was talking about is that if the spouse, the wife, collects her Social Security, let's say she takes spousal benefit at 62, she doesn't receive 50% of his benefit. She receives, let's say, 30% of his benefit. So there is a penalty associated with that as well. So making that decision is very, very important, because that's really the foundation of your whole income plan when it comes to retirement.
Yeah, I mean, it's definitely one of the main income streams.
Sure.
Do you feel, how do the Dietrichs feel in your office when people say, do you think Social Security will be there in 9 or 10 years? I mean, the SSA.gov website itself says, be prepared for a reduction unless Congress acts.
Right.
What do you think, Al? Do you think there'll be a reduction?
The question is, will Congress act? How would you like to be in the President of the United States and Social Security go away?
Right.
Yeah, we may be a one-party system.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
But nobody wants to do that. And, there are some options on the table.
Sure.
They started by, having a full retirement age be between 66 and 67. I personally feel that, it's going to be based upon what both sides of the aisle can live with. And will there be a reduction in benefits? There's always that possibility.
Sure.
But I think there's some things that they can do before we get there.
Yeah.
And we just don't know.
Right.
But we have to be prepared for a reduction in benefits. Yeah. And for some folks, Social Security is all they have. And for those folks, I feel very, very sad for. But a lot of times when and this is what I think we're talking about, is when do you start Social Security? How do you start Social Security? And the when isn't the first question. People come in and say, when should I start my Social Security? Well, that's not necessarily the first question. Right. The first question is, how does Social Security best fit in my retirement plan? Mm-hmm. Because it isn't always the base. Sometimes it's the gap filler,
Yeah.
So, again, there's many ways to look at this. And if you're planning for someone's retirement so that they never run out of money, so that they're taken care of until the day they die, then you need to come and have a plan devised just for you. It's not like shooting darts. There's a lot goes into it, and we'll take care of that for you.
All right, folks, you can call the phone number down on the bottom of the screen, and we can get you started on your own retirement plan. Social Security, as Al was just saying, is only one of the many questions, let alone the timing of it and some of the triggers and pulleys that have been taken away from Social Security. We need to maximize every single dollar you have in retirement. Al, Kevin, even Joe, even though he's not here with us today, can help you do that with First Choice Financial. It starts with a phone number. Call that phone number down on the bottom of the screen. You can do that right now in between the break. We're going to discuss a little bit here in this message. What exactly is a comprehensive strategy? What does that mean to you? We'll be right back.
How I got in the world of finance? My brother-in-law had a friend that was in the business, and he was looking to find an agent, and I was looking for a job. I was really hesitant, almost didn't do it. But then I thought, I got to have a job while I'm looking for a future, and so that's why I took it. And then one day I was asked to deliver a death claim check to a family. This was a very emotional situation, and my son was there watching this whole thing. So as I sat down and went over the amount of the money and how it should be spent, she was just up and hugging me and thanking me. And at that point in time, it hit me that what I'm doing is really important. it's not just being in the life insurance business. And so it was just a few months till I was independent. I couldn't do what I wanted to do as a captive agent. As an independent, it allowed me to be flexible with my time. And now the blessing is that Kevin, that young man I was talking about, he is now joining me in my practice. And his brother, Joe is joining me in the practice. So the future of First Choice Financial Services is in great hands.
Welcome back to Mid-State Money Talk. Joining me on the desk today is Kevin Dietrich, Al Dietrich of First Choice Financial. I'm your host, Spike Spangle, and we're talking about some of the stresses once again this week on your retirement planning, one of them being Social Security. There's the concern of, whether it will run out or not. But you did say that there are some things that you can help identify about where that really good spot is to take it.
Yeah, exactly. The sweet spot. There's several of them. And you need to understand through a planning perspective their income plan and those type of things as to see when is the best time to start Social Security. How's the best time to start Social Security? It's not one size fits all. You need to come in, you need to take a look at, you need to have somebody who understands it, who sit down and take a look at it and say, okay, here's one way we could do it, here's another way we could do it. Based upon what you're saying, we're showing you these two options. What's your thoughts on that?
Mm-hmm. So that's part of the comprehensive planning that we do. Holistically, we look at all aspects of your needs, of your wants, your desires. What do you dream about in retirement? And Social Security is the small piece. Sometimes it's the first layer of your income. Mm-hmm. If you have a pension, that's great. That's part of that. And then, do you want a pension? Can you create a pension without having a pension? I mean, we can do those things for you as well. But there is a sweet spot, and it's all about timing. When do you start taking Social Security, and why are you taking it at that particular age?
You guys put together comprehensive retirement plans, income plans, tax strategies. Mm-hmm. You don't mind, though, talking to folks about Social Security? You don't get paid, Kevin, for talking to folks about Social Security, do you? Can't the Social Security office give them advice on this?
They can, but I'm telling you, if you call the Social Security office 3 times, you can get 3 different advices. But they can't really give you advice. They can tell you, here's the rules, here's what you can get, but they're not allowed to give you actually advice. And so you have to sit down with a retirement advisor, financial advisor, and look at your plan holistically, totally, comprehensively, to see when's the best time, when's that sweet spot for you or just for you and your spouse.
Yeah. Al, when folks have come into the office, say they have called the phone number or they found you before in what we used to call the yellow pages, if anybody remembers that. When people have come and sat across from you, just percentage, ballpark, how many of them have already turned on their Social Security? How many of them haven't? Because we like people to ask the question before they get.
Yeah, that's a good question. I don't know. I would say probably 25 to 30% of them would do that.
That's probably right.
But it reminds me of a story. If I can take a minute, we had a couple come in and they had come to one of our workshops, and he was a school teacher and she was a college professor, mm-hmm. and he was just so tired of going to school every day and trying to get a lesson plan taught, and there's just so much happening there, And he all he wanted to do was he just wanted out. And he said the problem here is I can't retire for another 4 or 5 years. And I said, well, are you working with a financial planner? Yeah, my financial planner is down in Florida. Okay, he's down in Florida. What does he look like? I've never seen him, I've never seen him, but he's in Florida. And I said, well, if you'd like, we'll give you a second opinion. And to make a long story short, this was in November, and he retired June of the next year.
Really? Because
of the way we put together a program for him. He's been retired now about 5 years. His wife still teaches part-time, one class here and there at the college, and they're just loving life. They ran through some hardships. About a year after he was retired, he developed cancer. Now, what would that have done to him if he was still teaching? What kind of lifestyle would they have had? Mm-hmm. He and his wife and his daughter, his wife and his daughter took time out of their schedule to drive him to Johns Hopkins 4 days a week. 4 days a week. And one of the things that he said when he went into remission, he said, Al, I don't know that mentally I could have handled this if I wouldn't have been retired. So I am so glad that we took the time to come in and talk to you. And it's just one example.
Being there kind of, we joke about it a little bit, but that financial doctor that you're there and say, hey, let's do a checkup. You just offered it with a second opinion and said, let me take a look at what you, and when you brought him in and said, hey, let me see where you're at. Your person's down in Florida, or there may be a larger box firm that, the kind of place that's got their name on the side of a football stadium, or they pay for Super Bowl commercials, right? Those big box firms.
That's exactly right.
And you said, let me just do a second opinion. What did you charge him the first time to come in and do that second opinion?
One of the things that we do in our office is we do not charge for those initial interviews. I feel if I'm going to sit down and talk with you, or our staff sits down and talks with you, nobody works in my office, in our office, that doesn't have a servant's heart. So our objective is to first do no harm, as they say, but if we can help you, we're going to help you. Like everybody else, if the time comes and we ultimately start making changes and so on, every firm has to make a living, but we don't make our living on helping people to do the right thing. It's once they make some decisions and they decide they want to join with us, that's when the fees start and so on. And they're not any different than anybody else's. But we've had some people come and talk to us, and we've given them corrections on their program. And they've went and stayed with their current advisor for a period of time. We met them eventually, but for a period of time. So our objective is we want to help the folks, and they need to work with who they want to work with. But if you want that help, the number's on the screen.
Right. Kevin, let me ask you as well.
Sure.
As we get to these younger generations, a lot of folks are getting more accustomed to do it yourself. Your 401k is do it yourself.
Yep.
Make the selections in there. Your taxes, you can file things online. You can do it yourself. But when you get into retirement, should the Gen Xers, should those middle baby boomers, should folks be doing this all on their own? Or can you actually help people get a little bit more efficient by actually working with someone, like working with a trainer in the gym?
Well, that's a great question. We actually get that a lot, is that we have these do-it-yourselfers, as you call them, come in and sit down. They've done a really good job a lot of times, and we love working with them because they know what we're talking about, that we can talk the same language to a degree. But it comes to a point where a lot of folks, well, from our experience, is a lot of folks say, I'm just tired of it. Like, I'm just tired of doing that. I'm tired of watching the market. I'm tired of making all these decisions. I want to enjoy my retirement. I want to have a stress-free retirement. And so they come and say, here's what you have. Here's what I have. And we put a plan together, and it looks good. And so it just takes away from the need, and that heartache sometimes.
Yeah.
If you look at the market, it sometimes is a heartache. There was a study shown from Vanguard. I don't know if you can get into that or not, but
sure,
Vanguard had a 25-year period, 50% less growth when someone did it themselves than if they had a financial advisor. 50% less growth. That's huge. Now, if you've done well, and if in the markets we've had the last 20 years, you should do well, right? And so, but 50% less growth than working with a financial advisor.
This Vanguard study was actually done, and Vanguard, for folks who like to work with that organization, tend to be do-it-yourselfers.
Right.
And they did a study, and they said that by working with a financial advisor, you can actually increase your returns a little bit, in part because of things like our emotional reactions to the markets, reacting to things like elections and whatever's happening with interest rates, and even silly things like different times of the year when people think you're supposed to invest, not invest. All those emotional factors that you guys help walk people through. We've got to take a very short message break here. But also for the do-it-yourselfers, it seems like you're on automatic if you've got a pension plan. I wanted to ask you guys if that's correct or not. Folks, you can call the phone number down on the bottom of the screen and get started on your own comprehensive review. That includes your investment selections, taxes, estate planning, your healthcare choices, how and when to time that Social Security to maximize your spend at home in retirement. Call that phone number down on the bottom of the screen. More with Kevin and Al Dietrich when we get back from First Choice Financial right after this.
First Choice Financial Services, we're based out of Camp Hill, Pennsylvania. So if you're familiar with Harrisburg, there's a river that splits the mid-state in half. And on the right side is the Harrisburg City, and on the left side is what we call the West Shore. We're based in Camp Hill, Pennsylvania, which is just across the river from Harrisburg.
Everybody that works in our firm just has a heart for other people. My 2 sons are partners in the corporation. Their wives are very active in the corporation. The rest of the people in the corporation are, all but 2, are family.
I wouldn't want a practice that's not family-based or faith-based. If you're a believer, you're a Christian, then you have to live that. It's your life. It's who you are. It's your identity. My identity is in Christ and Christ alone, and I'm not going to waver from that. And why not have that spill over into my business, my practice? It's all over our walls, all over our TV screens, and they can see our heart, and they know, hey, we take care of them, and we love them as individuals, and we care for them and their soul.
When we've sat down with somebody and we've taken time to get to know them and put something into place that's going to really meet their needs, to see the look of relief or the posture change when they walk out of the office feeling confident and a little less worried of the years to come.
Welcome back to Mid-State Money Talk with Kevin Dietrich, Al Dietrich. I am Spike Spangle. I'm not one of the Dietrich family, but I feel like it. I love doing these shows with you guys. I learn so much myself through it. On today's program, we're talking again about some of the pressure points on retirement planning, but pension plans, that should be the easy button, right? I get a pension plan, but coupling that in with do-it-yourselfers. How about somebody who's come in recently? Is the pension plan automatic pilot?
Well, no, it isn't. Pension plans, that was my father's retirement plan. There are still some that come in, but so far and few between. But you know, the pension decision is so important. We like people to come and talk to us. They come to our workshops and they always say, I think I want to come and talk to you before I sign up which pension I want to be on. But you know, I could go on and on about that, but you know, that's another day. But I do want to say that we had this couple that came in, and he worked for the military, so he has a pension, and he made the right choice, he and his wife, and she worked for a well-known company in our area. They make chocolate candies. I won't name the name of it, but
okay. I think we all know who you mean.
And she's been working and working and working, and she wanted to retire, and she didn't feel like she could retire. And so most of the investing was done by them. But he came in and she came in, and they said, you know, we've sort of maxed out what we feel we can do on our own. Now we have to make all these decisions about the rest of our life, and we'd really like to talk with you about that. And so that's where we sat down, we talked, we had put together a plan for them. They started down the road of that plan. This particular company had a certain group of people that worked with them, and they went, and this couple, this other firm, cashed out all her stock, and it was qualified money, and they ended up having to pay around a $60,000 tax bill when it was not necessary at all. And they got a little upset with that, so they came back to us and said, I think I want you to handle all of our money because this was completely unnecessary. And so we worked with them. We tried to salvage as much as we could. But that's the point, is, you know, you reach a point where you say, okay, now I've taken it as far as I can.
Yeah.
Now I need to turn it over to somebody who's been up that mountain and down the mountain a couple of times.
Several times. So retirement planning is what you and the firm First Choice Financial, your first choice is retirement planning. This is what you go every single day in the offices, correct?
That's right. It's like going to a doctor. If he doesn't diagnose you, how's he going to treat you? You come to us, we want to diagnose your situation. Mm-hmm. Then we feel we can come up with a plan of attack or action that help you get where you want to be.
Yeah, Kevin, do you think the do-it-yourself world mentality of the last 10 or 20 years, do you think it's helpful for people doing their retirement planning, or is it hurting America a little bit more? Again, examples like this where we don't know what we don't know, and then somebody gets into a situation where their investments have been sold, they've got tax consequences. Why do you think people don't reach out to people in the financial services industry?
That's a great question. I wish I knew the answer to that.
Is it a fear, you think, of being sold or pitched something?
I think it is. I mean, you hear all these stories, right, on the news, and this financial firm took all the money, ran, and now there's legal action about it. And so there is a distrust, obviously, from the insurance world, insurance salesmen, and also from the financial services world. There is a mistrust. But going back to the Vanguard study, I just want to share this something. In reality, if you have $500,000 of investments and you did it self-managed, you can create $1.6 million over 25 years. If you work with a financial advisor with that $500,000 same investment, it's 3.4. That's huge. So that's just the advice, the guidance, that understanding all of the aspects of your plan and all of those pitfalls that you may run into, because we don't know what we don't know. It goes back to what my brother was saying on the last episode about, pension plans when they were a thing of the past and 401ks got started, right? Now we're supposed to be investors as our
You're supposed to be money
as
managers.
As employees, So how are we doing it now? Are we still doing that same type of mindset when it comes to our other investing outside of our 401k?
Right, but it used to be, I think it was something 5 or 10 years ago, that financial groups outside of your pension plan, outside of your 401k plan, weren't supposed to talk to families, individuals, about their 401ks. Can you talk to folks now about their 401ks? Can you look at their 401ks and help them determine if they're doing okay before they get to retirement?
We will sit down and look at their 401ks. And the first thing we do, we can't advise them, but we can educate them. And we help them understand what risk is, what stocks are all about, what's bonds are. We can help them understand what a lot of risk is, minimal risk, so on and so forth. And then we put together a little chart for them and say, okay, now you put your investments in this box and tell me what you think, okay? But yes, we can and we do, and they're very, very appreciative of it.
All right. Al and Kevin, both, thank you very much. Call the phone number. Let's get you started on your own comprehensive review. Thank you so much for watching Mid-State Money Talk. We'll be back next week.